10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome at this stream. I'm here with Gregory, and yeah, today we're gonna continue where we left off last week, right, Gregory?
Yeah, that's right. Today I'm going to keep going and continue building out this project that I started last week.
Cool. So maybe it's a good idea to show where you left off, and yeah, then you can take from there and start extending the application.
Cool. So, before we get started, this is the GitHub page for the project in case anyone missed it. And this page will be in the description. So, if anyone wants to check out the source code, they can download it and see how it works for them. Um, so, yeah, let's jump right into it.
Yep, sounds like a plan. I'll post the URL in the chat box while you're starting.
So let's see where we left off last week. So I'm gonna go ahead and run the app so we can see what was going on. So I'll go ahead and hit that. I'll jump into our app, and this was pretty much where we left off last week. Um, Over the weekend, I made a couple changes, just stuff I'm not going to show just because there's no real need. I already kind of went through it last week, but I just added this contact page right here.
Oh yeah.
I didn't add anything to it. It's blank, and we'll do that another time. But I also added this home button here on the nav bar because I thought it was kind of unclear having to click the logo here. So I just added this really quickly. Um, but, very simple. Just added items to our nav bar. Um, Also, in this about page, I just added some text, an H1 here, and some text, some P tags,
Oh
and
yeah.
this is just stuff that ChatGPT generated for me. So
Oh cool.
you mentioned last time about ChatGPT, so I was like, why not use it?
Let's check it out. Yeah,
So
of
yeah,
course.
but yeah, that's pretty much where we ended. If you remember, we were working on this login page,
Yep.
and we didn't set it up so it connects to any backend. So first thing we're going to do is set up that backend that we're going to be using for testing out this app this week and in the coming weeks. So I'll go ahead and jump right into that. So here in my terminal, as we can see, I have this folder open, DevExtreme-cloud-API, and this is where I'm going to create my backend. So I'm going to create these completely separately, completely different directories and different spaces on this VM hard drive. So what I'm going to do first, and I'm going to be using TypeScript again for this backend. Of course, anything works, but I thought it'd be interesting just to keep it consistent. So to start, I'm going to say npm init, and package name is correct, version's fine. And for this entry point, I'm actually going to change it to source slash index.ts. And I'll just skip through all of this, and that's it. And as we can see, we have our package.json file. So what we need to do first is I'm going to make a directory called source. And so now we have that directory, and I'm going to then run npx tsc dash dash init. So this is just going to set up TypeScript for us. And I have TypeScript already installed globally as an npm package. To do that, you would just type in npm install -g TypeScript. And so I'll just hit enter there, and it'll create a new tsconfig file for us. So then also I need to install some packages. So I'm going to install Express and cores.
Yeah, because you're now setting up the server-side project, right? Which
Right.
will be running a Node.js on the server to authenticate, etc.
Yeah. So, and then also I need to install some dev dependencies because we are using TypeScript, and as we all know, TypeScript is not actually a language. So I'm going to do npm install dash capital D for dev dependency, TypeScript, ts dash node, nodemon at type slash node at type slash express and at type slash cores. So
And
we'll
these
give
are
this a
like
sec.
type devs for TypeScript to so it knows the classes and everything that's
Exactly.
in the packages that you just installed, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so now I'm going to open this up and we'll see where we are. So now we have our folder structure, our node modules folder is there. And the first thing I'm going to do is open up this package.json file and start getting in here and editing some stuff. So first here in our scripts, I'm going to add a few new things. So I'm going to say start, and I'm going to say node dist slash index.js. And this dist folder will be created if we run the app. So basically in a production build, of course, there's many ways to set this up. This is just my preference. I would set it up so when we run the app, or when we build the app, I should say, it creates this dist folder, and of course it becomes just a regular JavaScript file because that's really what it is. And then we start it from that folder rather than running it in a development environment. And we can of course set uh, environment variables and so on just to specify these things. So I'm going to say build is going to be npx tsc. Oops, I forgot the quotes. And dev is going to be nodemon source slash index.ts. And I'll go ahead and save that. And inside our source folder,
Okay.
I'm going to add,
Basically, what you're doing now with that dev option in the scripts, that it will monitor that file, and once that file changes, it will do the build command. Am I
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
that's what nodemon is. So it's kind of like a live server kind of thing.
Yeah, it monitors if one of those files has been changed.
Yeah, so now I'm just going to add this index.ts file. But before I go into there, I'm going to jump into our tsconfig, and we need to make a couple of small changes in here. So the target is correct. ES 2016 is fine. The module here, I have to change to node next. And that's just having to do with like TypeScript rules and that kind of thing. Um, all that stuff is, specified in their docs. And I need to change the outdir. If I can find it.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
the
there
bottom.
we
I
go.
just noticed. Yeah,
And I have to uncomment this.
and that's gonna be the dist,
Yeah,
probably.
not slash dist, just like that. So now what we can do is we can jump into our index.ts file and just get started. And in this file, it's going to be relatively simple. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can, not to waste too much time. And so I'm just going to import Express, and this Express here in the curly braces is just the Express type, actually. Import cores, and I'm going to import router as auth router from router slash auth, and I haven't created this yet, but I'm just going to do it just in the interest of time. And here's our app, which I'm going to create here, and the type is Express. And I'm going to set, this is fine, port 3000. And I'm going to say app.use cores, app.use express.json, app.use auth, and it's that auth router, which we imported up here, which I will create in a second. And this app.listen will basically just open the socket for us and listen on the port that we specified up here, so port 3000. So now what I'm going to do is inside this source folder, I'm going to create a new directory called routes, and I'm going to create a new file in that directory called auth.ts. And this is just a simple and easy way of separating this out. Really what you'd probably want to do in a more production environment is have a routes folder that then imports your controllers. But in this case, I decided to not use a database at all, and that's just just for ease, and so we can test this stuff out without having to deal with any issues relating to databases. And so I'm going to import this router from Express, and the router is just so we can basically access these routes that we're about to create. And so I'm going to create a new thing, router.post /login, and Copilot already figured it out for me because I've already written it before. And so, however, I'm going to change this username to email, just because that's what I'm going to be saving it as. And actually, I'm going to remove this because it's not correct. I got excited. I thought it was going to be right for a second.
Yeah, I noticed it before with Copilot. Yeah, you do need to pay attention on what it does because it's not. It's typically 80% right, but you still might to change. You need to change a couple of things for your particular application.
So if there's no email or no password, I'm going to send a status of 400. And I'm going to send back some JSON. And I'm going to say success is false, and the message
Message seems okay.
is, yeah, that's fine. And so now we'll get our else in here, And inside here, I have another if. And I'm just going to hard code some values in here. So I'm just going to say this jd@mail.com for John Doe.
Yep.
And I'm going to say res dot status 200, success true, and that should be fine. And actually, I'm going to remove this because what we really want is to send back a fake token just so we can see how it looks.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to send back a fake ID as well. Um, like I've been mentioning pretty much in all the streams I've been doing kind of login stuff is, you know, with modern security standards and all that, what we really want to do is uh, you know, use a proper tool for auth rather than kind of doing it manually. Even if I was doing it sort of the proper way with the real database and hashing and all that, it's still not as secure as we'd want it to be. And we want to be using probably a third party service, especially
Yeah.
for OAuth to integrate with that, with Google, Microsoft, all their stuff. Um, like for example, if we were using Next.js as we could use NextAuth, which is gained some popularity recently.
Yeah, there is fortunately, I mean, there are a couple of good solutions for doing proper authentication, and it is these days a science by itself because there is so many hacking attempts going on. And but for this purpose, it's good enough, I guess.
Yeah, it should be fine. So I'm gonna run dev, and so it's working pretty much. So yeah, so this is running on port 3000, and we can just leave it there for now. So now I'm just gonna jump back into our main app, and this is of course running as well. And I'm not gonna go to any URL or anything or test it out that route just because I mean honestly I just kind of know it's working. Um, I'll trust myself with that one.
We'll see. I've got a special sound when it doesn't work.
Yep. And so again, here we are in our app, and so I'm just gonna set up this login that we just created. So we just created that route, so I'm just gonna build that out really quickly. So I'm gonna jump in here to our login form component that we created last week, and as we have here, we have these state variables, our form data ref. We have this on submit function, which is currently empty, and this is where we're going to set this up. So first thing we need to do here is we need to set this loading function to true. So it'll start, showing this spinning load indicator wheel, and it'll also, tell us basically that it won't let us enter a new information into our form. And so I'm going to create a try catch block here. And in our error, what I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to do this. I'm going to console.log the error because ultimately this is a server error, not really a auth error or something like that. So we don't really want to tell the user much. We'll just put a console log in there just for ourselves for debugging purposes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so up here in this try, what we're going to do is do const response equals await fetch http colon slash slash 172.22.5.80, and this is just the IP address of this machine I'm on. So we could say localhost as well. I just like to specify the IP just in case I forget. And it was 3000
I guess. Yeah.
slash auth slash login, and we'll put in our options here, and this basically figure it out for us.
Yep.
And so yeah, the method is post, headers, our content type is application slash JSON, the body is our form data. So now down here, I'm going to say const data is equals await response.json. And if data.success, which is that true or false value, so it'll understand that, we're going to say local storage dot set item token, and it's going to be data.token. And I just set this to navigate back to the home page just so we can make sure it works. Eventually I'll set this up and it'll navigate to like a user dashboard. And in this else here, I'm going to be using our DevExpress notify component, which is sort of a little pop-up. And in here, I'm going to say notify. I'm going to add some braces in here so we can have some options. So I'm going to say message is data.message, which if you remember, we set up in our backend. Type is error, and we have multiple types which you can play around with, and that's all specified in our docs. Display time,
Okay. It's going to
3000.
give you the red circle with the X in it, I
Yeah.
guess. Cool.
Yeah, and this display time is just how long this notification, it's sort of like a little banner, is going to be on the screen.
Oh, it's like a toaster thing, basically.
Yeah, it's in our toast kind of section,
Yeah.
but it's called notify. That's the what it's called in the package. So if I scroll up, we can see it's this notify up here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this position is just going to take some setup. So this is actually correct. My center top at center top. And then I'm also going to add an offset, which is going to be 0 and 100. And so this is just going to make it so our little banner is not at the top of the page exactly, but slightly lower. So it's a little bit more
Oh, it's more
nice to
prominent.
look at.
Yeah.
And this should be working. And I'm not sure why it's giving me this complaining thing here, but when it compiles, it should work. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
That fetch, where is that coming from, by the way?
Which one?
Online, what was it?
This one?
23, yeah. That's just like a method which is in there, or?
Yeah, the fetch is just part of JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not using any special packages. I just decided not to.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I could, but It should be better without it. Anyway, so we'll jump back here and we'll test it out. So if we remember what we said it was jd at mail.com. So John Doe is just kind of what I said. And it was just pass. And so we'll try it. And it, throws up all this Chrome stuff at me, but here it's working. So it threw us back to the
Yeah.
home page. If we hit inspect and we go to our application and our local storage, we can see it there. Hopefully everyone can see
Oh,
that.
there
We
it
have
is.
this
Yeah.
small token here. So that's just saved. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete that. Um, I'm not going to be, just throughout this app, I decided not to add any like front end kind of auth, like with any steering or anything like that, where it'll throw us out of pages if we're not logged in, that kind of thing, just because, you know, I want everyone, if you download from the GitHub page, to be able to use it without having to run a backend, even if you don't have one, something like that. So everyone
Okay.
can obviously just handle that themselves, in the preferred method.
So if you now enter some invalid thing, and we see
So if I
the
enter something invalid, we get this invalid message. But if, let's say I do enter something in truly invalid, which works in our front end, in our
yeah.
authentication, in our required rules and that I put into our form, by hit login, we get
Oh,
this
cool.
message up here. And if you notice, we get the invalid message
Yeah.
if we didn't have a password. So this won't let me log in anyway because of our form rules. But if I didn't have form rules, it
Yeah. I
wouldn't
would
actually
say,
it would send me that other message that password or username or password is missing
and
because we're
you should
getting it from our backend.
always do server-side checking as well, obviously, because you can set up these rules in the app. But I mean, this is all client-side, so you can't fully rely on this. And client-side validation is more to improve the end-user experience, I guess.
Yeah. Ultimately, what we'd have in our backend in our database model is we'd have particular schema with like mail something at something.com, or
Yeah.
so we'd have these rules obviously built into our schema for our database. Password, obviously we'd have regex that specifies the characters and all that. So of course I can't really do that here. I mean, I could probably, but it's easier if we don't.
Cool.
So
So
yeah. And again, we have these forgot password and register sort of links here. I'm not going to be doing a register page just because it's essentially the same as this form. It's almost exact copy, just with some more fields like name and address.
yeah, you might need an extra password box to check
Yeah,
to make sure it's good.
and
And then you
that's of
obviously need
course
to
very
store it as
easy.
well.
Yeah, it would just be and of course because I'm not using a database, it would just be sent to
Exactly. Yeah,
backend and nothing would happen.
yeah,
So
makes
yeah, and so this app right now, I mean, it looks pretty barren. Like there's not much here. So I thought today what we could do is we can basically just add some content in here into this home, products, and pricing pages. And like I said, I already added some text into this about. Again, it's uh, you know pretty lacking in design. It just, of course, isn't real, and DevExpress is not launching a cloud platform, so the best I
no,
could
let's
do.
not do that. That's, that
Yeah,
will raise other problems.
yeah, and just to mention that toast thing, that notify. If we want to see it, we can just search notify, or it would be toast
Oh,
in our
there we go.
demos,
Yeah.
and we can see it in our demos, and we could see sort of that popping up, and we can see the code for that, where we have this configuration and some functions, and down here we have that toast. Of course, I use notify because up here I'm using it inside this on submit function rather than as a component.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course, I could also render just the component if I really wanted to, but this is much better in my opinion, just because it's part of the logic rather than something else.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
Yeah, and in our docs we have all the information about the notify and all the settings that I changed, and like the you can set it to be at the bottom, at the left, right, all that kind of stuff too, or in the center. Um, so let me jump back here. And so what I'm going to start doing is building out this homepage. And so I'm just going to jump into my homepage. And right now we just have this div with some tailwind options. So it's going to be flex, and then I set up minimum height. So this is just going to be slightly less than the full size just because we have that nav bar. Theoretically, we can also add a footer at the bottom. Obviously, we don't really need any copyright information because this isn't a real thing. We have some margins. We have justify center and item center, which will basically make it so our content is directly in the center of the page. And we have this background specified where I just basically took a color, I used the Windows color picker and just got the color of the background, and I changed it a little bit, just like the HSL kind of thing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just changed the background just so we have a bit of a color palette, just so it's not, one plain color. And so what I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to open up a new div here. And say class name equals pb dash 16 pt dash 10. So padding bottom and padding top.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's padding bottom and padding top.
Min dash w dash full. So minimum width is full size of the screen.
Okay.
And I'm going to say in here, I'm going to add my h1. And it's just going to say dx cloud. Oops. And I'm going to say h3 class name equals text dash 2xl and text dash gray dash 300. So it's going to add a slightly gray color because I don't want it to be white. And I think we mentioned in another stream that one of like those design keys is to have kind of colors that are slightly different, even though they look almost the same. It's just kind of a subconscious kind of thing, apparently.
Yeah, also somebody told me once that you should never use like the pure white and pure black, but it should be like a bit less basically.
Yeah, and so I'm just going to add this fake slogan here. And I'm going to add this page break here. And I'm going to add some more stuff in here. I'm going to say virtual machines, cloud storage, and web hosting. And these are going to be our three product categories that we're going to be dealing with later. So then
Cool.
here I'm going to say div class name equals flex margin top dash 2 padding bottom dash 8 justify center and gap dash x dash 6. And so it's just going to be a gap between our items inside this flex box. And so in here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding some buttons. And of course, we're not going to be using regular HTML buttons. We're going to be using our DevExtreme buttons.
Of course.
So I'm going to say import button from, I'm not going to be using Material UI, DevExtreme React.
Are you gonna do? You're gonna go for that new thing that we released, right? The what was it? Fluent UI.
Yeah, the theme I'm using is our Fluent
Yeah.
SAS dark theme. And so we'll add in our button here. And just be like this. And then say text is get started. Type is default. Styling mode is contained. Class name is margin top dash 8. And height is equal to 40 pixels.
Oh, that's a decent button, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm going to add this other button, which is learn more. And the type in this case is going to also be default, except the mode is going to be outlined instead of contained. And when I save this, we should see it there. So there we go.
Cool.
So here are our
Oh,
two
that
buttons.
works. Yeah.
And of course, we could specify an on-click, so we could theoretically jump to different pages if we click these things. But I'm just going to leave it for now. And we have our text. I don't know if anyone can see that, but
Yeah, you
on
can
my
actually
screen,
see
it's a
it.
little bit darker for this text compared to this DX Cloud text.
Yeah, that's it. You can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Pretty
that's
much.
just because, yeah, that just makes it, I think it looks a little bit better.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, so now what we're going to do is, let's say we want one of those little strips at the bottom of our page that says, trusted by, or, we have, these are our partners or whatever. You see that a lot on websites, and we have it on our own website too.
Oh yeah.
So I thought I'd just add one of those things really quick. And so inside this assets folder, I just have these images here, and these are just DevExpress logos. Obviously, I didn't want to add any uh, real company logos in here, so I just added our own logo. So I'm just going to import these really quick. And this is a capital D.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And so just these 3 photos here. And these are all just the same logo. I just made multiple files, just sort of like to mock up how it would sort of be if it was a real thing. And so now what I need to do, just underneath this div here, I need to, of course, create another div. And this is going to have a class name of margin top dash 14. On a medium screen, it's going to be margin top dash 24. Background dash 141 E28. And this is actually our standard background color. I'm just adding in the uh, X code in here just because it won't show up over our other background because, of course, CSS is layered. So whatever comes after is what gets applied to everything. I'm going to say min dash W dash 9. P dash 8, so padding dash 8, so padding all around. Medium padding dash 14. And shadow medium. And inside here, I'm going to add a page break, add a p tag, text dash 2 XL, and I'm going to say trusted by industry leaders.
That
And
sounds
under
pretty
here,
professional.
guess what I'm going to add next?
Yeah,
Yep.
we are the leaders, right?
And so I'm going to add flex dash column, and I'm going to also add medium is going to be flex dash row. So essentially it's going to be column for these images. Otherwise, it's going to be a row on a medium-sized screen. And I'll show how that looks in a second. And this looks correct. Yes. And so we have our image, and I'm going to remove these class names just because we don't need them.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you the H-12. What's that with Tailwind?
Which
Yeah.
one?
Well, the one that you just removed, the H-12.
Oh, height dash 12.
Oh, okay, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not 12 really, it's a pixel value, but they just have their own kind of specifications. I can't remember what it is. Or it might be a rem value or whatever it is, just numbers.
Yep.
So it makes it nice and easy because you can just add whatever number you want and they kind of figure out what would be better for that particular values. Like for like height, it'll probably be like probably a rem value.
Yeah, I guess so. That's probably pretty much the same as with Bootstrap. If you specify a padding with Bootstrap, you'll specify like a P2 or something, which is something
Yeah.
REM.
With Bootstrap, it's pretty much the same idea, of course.
Yeah,
The only difference really is that with Tailwind, nothing's pre-styled.
yeah,
So if you add, there's no such thing as like a button class name. You have to create that yourself if you want it. And
yeah.
so
But I
that's
mean,
why, because I don't want the Bootstrap styling to interfere with our DevExtreme styling, so
no,
I
of
decided
course.
to use Tailwind.
Yeah, no, but I mean the numbers that you specify with the padding in Bootstrap is also like it's not like an absolute value, but it's like how do you say it? It's like a percentage. Yeah, it's like a
Relative,
relative measurement. Yeah.
yeah. And so if we jump here, we can see we have our
Oh,
logos
nice.
here.
Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
make it smaller,
And we have the background it's different.
yeah.
What was
Well,
that?
this you specify that flexbox as being in rows, which is default. But now when you make that screen smaller, it
Yeah, if
will
I change it to a
it
sort of
will
a mobile
swap over
screen,
to
we can see it's in columns.
Yeah, nice.
Or sorry, this is rows. The other one was
Yeah, this is
columns.
right. Yeah, it's still. I mean, I always have to look. How does that work with the columns and the rows? It's a bit not really logical with the CSS flex to me, but
Yeah. And of
yeah,
course, the styling isn't perfect, but it's fine for our purposes.
yeah,
And yeah, so like this login, of course, is still there.
menu
Everything
is
is still
there.
working as expected.
Cool. Yeah, that looks great. At least functional.
Yeah, and so
And that
hope
menu, that menu that you put up there with the home products pricing and about, that's like a DevExpress, DevExtreme menu.
yeah,
And you just emulated the mobile device, and then the menu will automatically reshape itself into like this little hamburger button on the right. I think. Yeah,
yeah,
that's doing it by itself. Yeah, that
yeah,
is.
little context menu. And this is the
Yeah,
DevExtreme toolbar, and
yeah.
this is sort of like a quick and easy way to basically add a menu. We could use this in multiple ways and pretty much anywhere on the screen. I just decided to use it as a nav bar. But we also have a specific menu component as well that can be used here.
Okay.
So yeah, that's just another option. And as we grow it, these icons disappear. What we
Yeah.
would probably do is add a variable. So what I would do is add a use context or create a custom hook that finds our screen size,
Yeah.
and we would call that, and we would use variable or a use effect to set what's visible and what's not depending on the initial screen size.
Does that menu have? I mean, I remember this from the other products that we have, the other web products, but do don't those items have something like an adaptive priority or something? I'm not sure if that's also in DevExtreme, but I remember that from the ASP.NET controls, we have a menu as well, similar like this. And there you can set like an adaptive priority property on those items, and then it will determine which items should fall off first, basically. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if
I
that,
believe we have that as well.
then
I
it's
think that
even
that's
more
probably in our
interesting.
API docs.
Yeah,
Yeah, so but yeah, that should we should do that as well. But I just kind of didn't really. Obviously, it just goes from the right. I
yeah,
thought that was just a little bit cleaner anyway, so I didn't add that. But what we really want is like, let's say we get to here, it would just
yeah,
completely disappear, and it
yeah,
wouldn't go one at a time. Again, we could do that where we could just set variables. So if it's a small screen, we can set one of our uh, DevExtreme options. So if I jump into the nav bar,
yeah,
we have these items here.
yeah,
So like for example, this is the home button right here.
yeah.
So we could simply just say, you know, this thing, this variable sets it to hidden, or says locate in menu true, or
Yeah.
something like that, based on the variable value, rather than
Oh
me
yeah,
just setting it to auto, which is it'll auto hide when we
yeah.
change the screen size. But yeah, so
Cool. Yeah, I'm already checking that documentation as you're coding here. I'm already checking the documentation of the toolbar, and it's got a section which is adaptability, and
yeah, so
yeah,
what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna jump into this pricing page, and I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do the product page. We'll do that next week, but
yeah.
this pricing page we can get done pretty quick just because it's very simple. So I'm going to say import accordion from DevExtreme React slash accordion. And I'm also going to say import. Actually, that's all we need. My bad. And here I'm going to specify type called pricing data. And I'm just going to say title is a string and content is a string. So that's about it for that. And then also down here, I'm going to specify just some simple stuff, some simple data.
Oh yeah.
And
And
it'll say,
that should normally be retrieved from a database, obviously, but for this purpose, it's just
yeah, so
a static array.
this is pretty much correct. So I'll just kind of leave it as it is, just so we can see it. These I'm going to change to I don't know, something like cloud hosting and virtual machines. And these are kind of those product categories, so we can just kind of see. And and this is storage. And so there we have this pricing data thing right here. And I'm just going to rename this to just data, just so it's not as confusing. And of course, this type is going to be this pricing data type as an array. And so for this pricing, and under this H1, I'm going to create, once again, a div. And this is going to be flex, item center, and justify center. And in here, I'm going to add our accordion. And for the class name with the accordion, I'm going to say margin top is 4, height is 96, and width is 1/2. And for the data source, I'm going to set to that data array I just created. Collapsible is going to be true. Multiple is going to be true. And the item title render is going to be equal to custom title. And I'll create this component in a second. And item render is going to be custom item. And I'm sure you're very familiar with the accordion, Don.
Yeah, of course. Because again, we have that available on pretty much all of our product suites for all the different technologies that we have.
And again, I'm going to specify this pricing data type that I just created for this data that we're going to be passing into this custom title. And of course, this custom title component, we're not really calling it anywhere, but with DevExtreme, it will call it and it will pass in our data source into it automatically for us, so we don't have to do that manually. So it's another nice convenience feature that we built in. And so for this return, I'm just going to say div class name equals text-2xl. And in here, I'm going to say data.title. So this is just going to be for the title of our accordion.
Yeah.
And for this custom item, it's again going to be very similar.
Oh yeah, it
And
already
so we're
knows
just going
what
to
I
set
want.
the text size. And of course, we could do lots of styling in here. I
Yeah.
just decided to just kind of leave it simple just so we can see. And so this should be rendering. So I'll close this out. And if we go here, yeah, there we go.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was again extremely simple. And if you want to have that free forever, that text, if you want to have that aligned to the left, that's probably
That's
just like
just
a
the
matter of
the,
adding a
the
style, right?
Tailwind class, right?
Yeah.
Here, let me see if I could do that quickly.
So you'll probably put in something there like a line left or something. Or yeah, item
Yeah.
start.
So this should work. Oh, maybe not. I think it needs to be.
Oh, item. It's probably item. Oh yeah.
I think it's items. Actually, make sure. Yeah, it's items.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
But
yeah,
maybe this justified left will do it. We'll see. Nah, it doesn't.
yeah. Okay.
It has to
Well,
do with this one up here. But I mean, I
oh
just
yeah,
left it.
that will take it over, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually I did this on purpose actually,
Okay.
just because um, what I'm going to be adding here, I just kind of want it to be centered. But
Yeah.
of course, I'm going to be doing that next week. So yeah,
Well, again, that seems extremely simple to set it up, and particularly using the DevExtreme controls is really, I mean, you're not even under the impression that it is like a separate product or like separate controls, because if you check out the code that you've just been creating, the TSX files,
yeah.
it's
This
just like,
accordion right here.
yeah, I mean, it's just as if it is native TypeScript basically, which makes it extremely cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you've set it up, but obviously we have some CLI tools for it to set up your project and include all the packages and stuff. Yeah, you're pretty much rocking. Cool stuff.
Yeah, and again, this is all sort of straight out of our demos and documentation. What I've tried to do always with these live streams is try to keep it as simple and easy, at least the dev extreme components are concerned, and honestly, the
Yeah.
rest of it too. I mean, nothing's too complicated.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is easy to follow, and it's clear what's going on here. So really cool stuff. And I mean, I keep being impressed with the the way that the controls look, that how they work, and like the toolbar with the adaptivity features that it will just switch over to this nice hamburger button on the right side. It's yeah, it's really well thought of. So it will also work great on a mobile device. So yeah, cool
Yeah, it's
stuff.
funny. I've been
So
looking at these controls for quite a while, and
oh yeah,
it never gets boring.
no, no,
It's
I
always
mean
interesting, all the cool stuff that we could do in such a with such little code. I mean, that was like what 5 6 lines of code, and we don't even need it to be that. I just added some options. Theoretically, we can all only have this data source,
yeah,
and it would just use the default settings.
yeah, and then it will also look fine as well. So yeah, really cool. Well, I think that we wrap it up here. Next week, you're going to be working on some more features in this app, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully we can get to it next week. But I'll be adding this product page, and I'm just
Yep.
gonna be adding some cards. So I'm
Oh
gonna show
yeah.
how to do that in a nice, easy way. For that, it's just gonna be a little bit of Tailwind and some just the small component. So that'll be pretty easy and quick. This contact, I'll take care of this as well, and I'll link this up to the backend as well, and I'll add a form. And also, hopefully, if we have time, I'll get started on making our user dashboard. So
Oh,
theoretically, if someone's logs in, they'll jump to that dashboard,
yeah.
and I'm gonna make it so there's a nice side navigation panel, some nice tree lists, some nice charts, and all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, that is really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to next Wednesday, same time. But I'm also looking forward to next Tuesday because then I will be doing another live stream. And yeah, I'm working on a project and I'm going to show you how to transform a web forms application into Blazor. It's not going to be like an automatic job, but I'll show you some tips and tricks on how to get started with it. I actually did it already and we'll be working on that next Tuesday.
That's a very cool project.
It is something, yeah, that people keep asking about because there is so much work being done on web forms. And yeah, that's a bit end of story.
I'm glad you chose that DX hotel booking demo too, because that
Yeah, I
demo has
will.
been around for quite a while,
Oh, yeah.
and so yeah, that's always fun to revisit.
We do have some challenges, I can assure you, because obviously on web forms we have a massive amount of controls. We have to deal with that somehow in Blazor as well. So make sure to check it out next Tuesday. And yeah, for this TypeScript slash React product, yeah, check it out next Wednesday. So thank you for watching and see you next week.